Here are my top tips for the mid game in Abiotic Factor after playing the game for more than 50 hours. Remove armor whenever you're traversing long distances. Once you start getting into the mid and late game, the facility really starts to open up, but even with access to all the shortcuts, you're still going to be doing a whole bunch of running back and forth. And most of the time, these big hallways don't even have enemies in them, so you could just save yourself a bunch of time by removing your armor, and suddenly you're going to be zooming through the facility. This is especially important in the mid game because Forge Armor is going to be one of the most powerful sets that you can have at that point in the game. But it's also extremely heavy, and if you have the full set, it'll give you the maximum movement penalty, which will really slow your character down. Just don't forget to put your armor back on if you get in a fight. The Healing Briefcase. This is one of my favorite items out of the mid game. The Healing Briefcase is a chargeable, throwable item that heals you and anyone else in its radius. Another thing that makes this item unique is that unlike most healables in the game, this one doesn't get consumed or destroyed when you use it. Instead, the Healing Briefcase has a battery that you can recharge, allowing you to use it over and over again. This is especially useful in those situations where you're bleeding in combat because the briefcase helps counteract the blood loss, giving you more time to bandage up. And I do not recommend using the briefcase on elevators or lifts because in my experience they can get stuck and you won't be able to retrieve them. Make enemies fight each other when possible. There are some areas in the mid game where you're going to see aliens and armed guards in close proximity to each other. A good way to kill two birds with one stone is to lure these groups into one another, watch them go at it, and scammer get scammed. Another little mini tip when it comes to guards in specific is to look closely at what they're wearing and the gun that they're holding. This is a quick way to determine how strong they are and what type of approach you should take. If you're playing on PC and you have issues with crashing in the mid game, try changing your anti-alias settings and restarting the game. My game was almost unplayable until I discovered this fix, and shout out to this amazing Reddit user for the suggestion. Build the crafted barrel as soon as possible. Once you've discovered this resource that I'm showing on screen, which is found in the mid game, you're going to want to create the crafted barrel as soon as possible. Once you do this, you're going to want to pay attention to the recipe that's unlocked. To avoid any spoilers, all I can say is that you have to do this as soon as possible, trust me. And as a final bonus tip, I have to warn you guys, this is a slight spoiler, but I can assure you I've kept it as vague as possible. After you complete a full cycle through Flat Hill for the first time, a new enemy is going to start to appear there. Unlike the composers who are pretty much bulletproof, this enemy can be killed and it drops some pretty solid loot as well. Now, I don't want to spoil the fight, so I'm not going to go into tactics or animations. Make sure you take a lot of healables and your best gear because this is one of the toughest enemies I've come across. You also get an achievement for defeating this creature, and only 9% of Steam players have this achievement, so I figured it'd be worth mentioning. There we have it, my top tips for the mid game with minimal spoilers. I also recommend checking out my tips for new players because some of those are still useful in the mid and late game. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.